including a new person who's a part-time employee with us now. Real brief overview of what's in store for today. You'll hear from myself. I'd like to introduce a new employee, part-time employee that we have on board, talk a little bit about biological controls. I will give you an update on the Casogue Lake Fanwort project. Then we'll hear from Robert Smith, our terrestrial coordinator. He'll talk about the urban forest sustainability project and updates. Tug Hill Restoration results, invasive species management, and a Black River Trail feasibility study that we're working on. Then we'll hear from Brittany Rogers, our Aquatic Restoration and Resiliency Coordinator, on early detection efforts so far this year, the Watercraft Inspection and Survey Program. Brittany will provide an update on that, along with an update on our aquatic invasive species tributary and riparian corridor assessment. We'll also have an update about the environmental DNA program that we have. Then we'll hear from Megan Pistolis, our education and outreach coordinator, who will discuss some metrics, upcoming events and collaborations, and general education and outreach efforts. I'd like to introduce to everyone Zach Simek. Zach is the conservation and GIS analyst for both the SLELO and the Adirondack prisms. He is a 2013 graduate of Paul Smith's College, holds a Bachelor of Science in Natural Resource Management and a minor in Geographic Information Systems. In his current role, Zach develops methods for mapping and classifying invasive species infestations and management trends. Zach also assists in preparing data for analysis and reporting. He is an FAA certified drone pilot and leads efforts to remotely detect and map invasive species. And Zach is now a shared position between both the SLELO prism and the Adirondack prism. So I'd like to welcome Zach to the team and introduce you to him. And Zach, do you have a few words you'd like to say?
Sure, thanks for that introduction, Rob. So as Rob mentioned, I am supporting both the Adirondack and SLELO prisms. I'm not new to the prism network. I've been working in the Adirondacks for the last 5 years, and I'm excited to expand my geography a little bit and assist the SLELO prism as well. I already have some interesting projects lined up with Brittany and Rob, and I look forward to meeting more of the SLELO partners and learning about some of your science needs and how I can assist with that. And I would encourage folks, if you have any questions about data, science needs, GIS work, please feel free to reach out to me. I think Rob has my email on the slide. Thanks, Rob.
Sure, thank you, Zach. So we're excited to have Zach on the team, and we've already tapped into Zach's expertise in several endeavors. So welcome, Zach, and on behalf of the SLELO partnership, we look forward to having you on the team and working with you. I'd like to start off by giving everyone an update on the swallowwort biological control efforts for this year. As you know, 2 years ago, we did some caged releases in Henderson. We had good success in terms of defoliation of the swallowwort plants, especially in the shady site. We had overwintering of the insects, and then the population, actually the New York population, crashed due to a microsporidium issue. The researchers at SUNY ESF, Cornell, and the University of Rhode Island have been rearing bugs on a special diet to keep them healthy. And this year we hope to reestablish some of the insects, and we're also hoping to double up on the amount of insects and locations that they've will be released. So on July 2nd, we set up 2 cages which were established in island settings, isolated island settings, one in Carlton Island, one in Grenadier Island. Carlton Island has small patches of swallowwort, whereas Grenadier has a much higher abundance of swallowwort. In fact, Grenadier is pretty much an entire monoculture of swallowwort on that island. We also have 2 cages scheduled for Henderson, New York, same location as in prior years. So we hope to establish a total of 4 cages. Excess adults, should they emerge, will be liberated into the open environment. We are partnering with the Thousand Islands Land Trust, the New York State Invasive Species Research Institute, SUNY ESF, and also the University of Rhode Island on this project. And so cages are being set up currently, and the insects, we hope, will be forthcoming. So I would also like to footnote that what the researchers are finding is that the Hypena opulenta insects aren't very easy to rear in greenhouses or in the lab. So there's a lot of challenges with that. But nevertheless, we hope to obtain some insects over the next few weeks and distribute them as mentioned. You also may have heard that a biological control for Japanese knotweed, other knotweeds, has been approved this year. The Invasive Species Research Institute sent out a news article recently where the psyllids have been released in several areas across New York State on June 10th. Not sure what our expectations are for this. The researchers tell us that they're unsure as to whether or not the psyllids will do enough defoliation, enough damage to the knotweed plants in order to suppress them. But nevertheless, this is the first phase of open air releases of these psyllids, and the researchers will keep an eye on that and record metrics and try to make a determination on how many insects it will take, or psyllids it will take, to suppress knotweed populations. But it is another tool in our toolbox. This year is the initial releases, and as we all know, it takes a few years of studying them in the field before we can do more broader, widespread releases. But it has been approved, and they are being liberated into the field. And this is just another photograph close-up of how they release the psyllids into knotweed, mature knotweed stands. So we'll keep you appraised of developments on that, and hopefully at some point we can offer up, well, we've already offered up areas in the SLELO region as test plots for this. We didn't make the first round, but hopefully opportunities will come up where we can release some of these in our region. I'd like to give everybody an update on the Cassogue Lake fanwort suppression project. As you know, we do some limited special projects each year. We collaborate with folks, and this year we collaborated with the Cassogue Lake Conservation Association to do what we hope to be a final treatment of fanwort on Cassogue Lake. And that was done this past month. And this map shows where the herbicide was introduced into Cassogue Lake. They used something called Clipper. And they were able to successfully treat a total of about 29 acres of what they refer to as remnant populations of fanwort. Fanwort was treated a couple of years ago, and there were some small patches that came back. So this year the idea was to go in and get those areas that returned and suppress them, in hopes that this will be our last treatment of fanwort on Cassogue Lake. I think it's also important to mention that not only does this help alleviate Casogue Lake of fanwort, but the outlet of Casogue Lake leads directly down into Oneida Lake. And so this effort helps to prevent fanwort from moving downstream into Oneida Lake. Several years ago, our seasonal team, along with volunteers, did a early detection search on the entire length of Fish Creek, which goes from Casogue down to Oneida Lake, and we did not find any populations of fanwort downstream of Casogue Lake. So hopefully the past herbicide efforts will help keep that in check. So that project has been completed. They did a good job with this. I think there's a before and after photograph there. And again, we hope this will be the last treatment that will be needed for fanwort in Casogue Lake. Next, I'd like to invite our Terrestrial Restoration and Resiliency Coordinator, Robert Smith, who will give you several updates. Robert,
Yep. Good morning, everyone. As you know, give me a second here. All right. As you know, the Urban Forest Sustainability Initiative is a program that we are offering urban communities in the SLELO region over the next 3 years. This program promotes urban forest sustainability through increasing tree species diversity, planting climate adaptable trees, planting native trees, pest management, and planting the right tree in the right place. We are in the process of visiting 5 cities this year, but since COVID-19 arrived, this program had to adjust to accommodate social distancing. So meetings that were intended to be in person are now being held over the phone or on Zoom. Hard copies of the Urban Forest Sustainability Guide that I was going to present to the urban foresters of the cities are, now I have to send them a link to the location on there on the SLELO website. The in-person presentations aren't happening anymore. They're all now being done by Zoom presentation. And what hasn't changed, what's remained the same though, is we're still offering the $2,000 to for reimbursement for purchase of native tree species from the guide. And our website's still out there available to assist these communities. So far, I have presented to Tree Watertown in March with other cities in different stages of the program, from initial contacts to phone meetings with urban forester to coordinating a date for the presentation. In the next 2 years, I'll be going to visit another 10 communities in the SLELO region. The Tug Hill Restoration. Oops, back up. All right, you have to bear with me. I'm having a little technical difficulty. There we are. The Tug Hill Restoration is a project resulting from invasive honeysuckle and buckthorn removal. In 2018, 2018, approximately 35,000 trees are planted at the as the major phase of this restoration. In May of this year, an additional 8,527 trees were planted in 12 patch cuts within 2 stands, which is, you know, over 20 acres. If you look at the map at the bottom right, you will see that the 6 patches in stand 32 are circled. You might also notice that there's 4 that have red X's on them. Those were originally planned for planting, but were found to be inaccessible. There were 4 species planted, those species being red oaks, white pine, and sugar maple. And if you see the numbers for each are right there on the slide. The trees were provided by Meadowview Tree Farm and planted by both Land Pro, who planted 7,345 of them, and the Nature Conservancy staff, which planted 1,182. These trees were planted according to a random number generator with 4 different color flags used on site to indicate the species to plant and the spacing.
Robert, if you want to get control back to me, I can move the slides for you.
If you could. It's like for some reason it's giving me a problem over here. Yeah, I need to back up 1 slide. Perfect. Invasive species management update. Miller's Turf will be applying herbicides at 91 sites this year. 80 are Wart sites, 7 are Phragmites sites, and 4 are Japanese knotweed sites. The early detection team will be visiting all of these sites this year and determining if these sites need continued treatment. They will also be creating new treatment sites as they discover new areas with invasive species during their early detection surveys. Biocontrol test releases. I know Rob already went through this in more detail, but we will be setting up 4 cages with Hypena opulenta at 3 sites. 2 of the cages will go to Whaley State Park, 1 to Grenadier Island, and 1 to Carlton Island. You know, these are all test releases, so the results of these test releases will determine the viability of us doing additional releases. We are conducting a feasibility study of the Black River Trail this year to determine the extent of invasive species that exist along the trail and the amount of restoration required if these invasive species were removed. This trail is about 3.5 miles in length and is located between Watertown and Fort Drum. It's a very busy trail with around 104,000 visits recorded at that trail last year. There are many invasive species present along that trail, including common buckthorn, honeysuckles, oriental bittersweet, and pale swallowwort. To determine where the biggest invasive species problems are located along the trail, we have divided the trail into 29 compartments. Each compartment is 1/8 of a mile in length, with the width going from 100 feet on the south side of the trail to the river on the north side of the trail. In each compartment, we will record the type and quantity of invasive plant species and the native plant composition. The results of this study will help us prioritize compartments for removal efforts. In other words, compartments with more invasives will get treated first. To avoid herbicide contact by people and pets using the trail, all areas near the trail will be treated using mechanical or manual methods. The results will also help us determine the restoration planting requirements for the compartments that get treated. This study will tell us how much space needs replanting and what native species are present in that area of the trail. All removal efforts or restoration efforts will of course be resource dependent. So this feasibility will be very helpful because it'll allow us to focus our limited resources on the hardest hit areas along the trail.
Thank you, Robert. I'd like to now ask Brittany to give us some updates on our aquatic restoration work throughout the region. Brittany, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Rob. First, I'm going to apologize to everybody. It sounds like at this moment, all of my neighbors are mowing their lawns all at the same time. So I apologize if you have some background noise. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear while I talk to you about some of the things that we are working on. So the first update I will give you is on our early detection field work that Robert and I have been doing. Robert just extensively talked about the Black River Trail and the feasibility study that we're working on, which is moving forward, and we are going to sporadically go back to the Black River Trail throughout the rest of the season, trying to get more parts of the trail assessed and figure out where the invasives are. We've also been up to the Chameau Barrens, the Deer Creek Wildlife Management Area, El Dorado Preserve, and the Black Pond Wildlife Management Area. As you can see, we do have quite a bit left on our schedule for the field season, but luckily we will continue through, hopefully we'll have another good fall and be able to go into October continuing our field work. We are utilizing the previous reports that have been submitted by the seasonal staff. However, Robert and I are working really hard to emphasize not only what invasive species we are finding at these locations, but we're also trying to really focus on what we're trying to protect in those areas and really just, you know, emphasize why those areas are priority conservation areas for the SLELO Prism and partners. So I just wanted to show you a few photos of some of the different species that Robert and I are fortunate enough to encounter at some of these field sites. So this is the Chameau Barrens, and this is a really cool preserve. It's owned by the Nature Conservancy. Robert and I have spent quite a few days out there. We still have one more day to go back because at the same time we're looking at our treatment sites. But we've been fortunate enough to encounter quite a bit of different species, including the infamous prairie smoke. This one's pretty cool. It's the orange fruited horse gentian, and so it's got a pretty cool flower, and then the fruits that grow are also pretty neat looking. This is a little bit more common around the state, or at least the area, so it's not a rare or protected species necessarily, but still a cool find. And then the red columbine, which is our native columbine. Next up is the Deer Creek Marsh Wildlife Management Area. This is a really nice site because it not only has a lot of the marshy areas, but there's also some grasslands, and then if you aren't familiar with it, there's a really awesome creek that leads up to the Lake Ontario, and so you have a lot of the dune system at the end of the wildlife management area. And some of the species that we've encountered here include the starry fall Solomon seal, or there's another nickname, the star-flowered lily of the valley. This is one of my favorite finds, was the seaside pea. So although most of your pea species that you will find are pinks, these ones are a really cool purple, sometimes a deep purple with white, so they're pretty cool looking. And then also the swamp milkweed, which is pretty prolific in some of the areas in the marshy areas. Then at the El Dorado Nature Preserve, which is also owned by the Nature Conservancy, we got to find, unfortunately, some pretty large areas that were covered with swallowwort, which we previously didn't know that they were completely covered. Robert and I also teamed up with other Nature Conservancy staff and did some pulls to manage some of the swallowwort in the areas as well. And so here we found some different species. I'm going to go back one. So this, if you aren't familiar with El Dorado, the Tralix actually leads out to the beach. But at El Dorado, currently the beach is fenced off and closed off because it's really our most pristine bird habitat right now. So we're just trying to keep people out of there. And if you're not familiar with Black Pond, the DEC property that is just south of El Dorado, that is actually also closed off to the beach. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of foot traffic and a lot of people with dogs off leash and just kind of running around. So hopefully we're going to keep that pristine and try to keep people off of there as much as we possibly can. And some of the species that we've encountered here include the eastern pond hawk. These are pretty cool. The males and females are sexually dimorphic. So the females are this bright green and the males are a little bit smaller and they're bright blue. So those are pretty neat. We found some rusty tussock moth caterpillars and also a very large northern water snake. And although I don't know if she or he, it doesn't look that big in the picture, it was almost 5 feet long. So it's a pretty large snake just sunning itself on the beach. And then also we have Black Pond, which was our first aquatic field survey of the year. So of course, you know, one of the areas that I was pretty excited to be in. And just to kind of show, you know, a lot of the aquatic species, you don't always see them because they're underwater. However, this is a flower of the common bladderwort, which is a pretty remarkable aquatic carnivorous plant, but then the flowers are really pretty little yellow flowers that come up. I just want to also note that I believe the genus and species name might be slightly different to the macrorhiza instead of vulgaris, but I'm not sure, depending on what website you're going to, it's changed. Then we have the Marsh Skullcap, and this is the common whitewater crowfoot. So just some examples of some of the different species that we've encountered, and emphasizing why some of these areas are protected, why they should be protected, and why we're out there. Next up, I'd like to formally introduce and announce our subcontractor for the Aquatic Restoration Initiative Phase 1 work, which is an invasive species inventory and baseline habitat assessment. That assessment is happening at the Lakeview Wildlife Management Area at the Sandy Creek, the South Sandy Creek, and then at Deer Creek Marsh Wildlife Management Area at Deer Creek. So we will be working with Roots, and Roots was chosen as our organization to work with because they are very passionate about advancing both the science and practice and policy of ecological restoration, trying to really improve the resilience and sustainability in the environments that they're working in. Matthew Bonzillo has been working as a consultant for over 20 years, and so he has been really great to work with. We're kind of waiting on a few pieces to get him out in the field and actually moving forward. So he's been doing an extensive literature review, working with partners. So thank you to all of you who he's already worked with that I believe are on the line. So thank you so much again, Matthew, for joining us. And this is an image from his work at the Onondaga Lake cleanup site. So thank you again. So for this Aquatic Restoration Initiative, we will be assessing those 3 tributaries to Lake Ontario, doing visual observation, rake tosses, horizontal plankton tows, and then also aquatic live traps to get a really good understanding of the invasive species that are in these regions, so that we can have a complete analysis and restoration recommendations from roots to help us determine the sites that are most in need for some restoration or rehabilitation. So next, I'll just give a quick update on our 2020 eDNA sampling. Unfortunately, as many of our programs have been hit kind of hard with the coronavirus and some of the changes, the lab that we are working with was not able to hire any staff this summer. So we are waiting on them getting some people on board so we can start collecting samples and getting out in the field, collecting those and analyzing to determine what species are present. We are working on updating and changing our primary species. As of right now, these 5 will be tested for, but we're hoping to add an additional 3 on top of that. But again, just kind of working with the lab to determine what species they'll be able to analyze this year. Next up, I will give an update on our watercraft inspection steward program, which has been co-administered by the SLELO Prism and the Thousand Islands Land Trust. So if anyone from the tilt is on the line, I'm just giving you guys a shout out now. We were very fortunate enough to hire all 10 stewards that we were hoping to hire. We had to change things up a little bit, and our training ended up being 2 full days on Zoom, which, as you can all imagine, is very different than being in person. So here's one of the screenshots of everyone at home calling in to do the training. So we did 2 full days of both the employment onboarding, but then also really diving into the importance of the program, how to ID invasive species, and also some of the native lookalikes, utilizing new technology for the program, or using Survey 123 to collect data, which I'll talk about in a moment, and also just really, how to approach people, how to collect data in a proper manner, and how to report things out back to the public. So although none of them are on the line, it's been a really great group to work with, and they are just working their tails off out there. And evidence of that is shown by, so here's one of the pictures. We did have to do a little bit in person because we had to distribute supplies. So here's just a couple pictures in person with the stewards, and that's also including Elena Young from Tilt. The map, again, is the distribution of the stewards across our region, so we're trying to cover as many launches as possible. Okay, so talking about how much they're working out there, we've collected over 5,100 inspections, and we expected a different participation rate than in past years. Usually it's about 99%. We're hitting 94%, which is pretty good. It's actually really interesting because 35% of the people that our stewards are talking to have never encountered a steward before. So these launches that we're covering are the stewards are interacting with people who don't really know anything about the program. They don't know much about SLELO Prism or our partners. So we're really reaching a new audience. And our audience is about 13,000 people from those 5,000 inspections. So definitely reaching a huge group of people. The average group size is about 2 to 4 per boat. The largest that we've seen there was a group of 11 kayaks that had 11 people in the group. So that's pretty awesome to see everybody out there utilizing nature and enjoying the awesome weather that we've had. The visitors, we do collect information on where people are from, where they're going to, and just, kind of collecting some questions to better gauge who is using the launches. And so we've had people from Alaska, Washington, Texas, Florida, and Maine. So literally every corner of the United States that we've reached. We do have some people that have visited from Canada as well. Our busiest launches, the top 5, are Lake Bonaparte, North Sandy Pond, Butterfield Lake, Cape Vincent, and Mary Street up in Clayton. The North Sandy Pond launch was actually a surprise to me how busy it really was. So we actually ended up changing our schedule around a little bit to have almost full coverage of stewards there all the time, just because of how many people were in and out of the water. And that site, we have been finding a lot of organisms on boats every time people are launching or retrieving. So 43% of the boats that we have inspected have been in the water within the last 2 weeks, and so 20% have been in different water bodies, which definitely shows us that people are moving around. stay tuned for more information on where people are going to and coming from. But as you can see in the list of the state acronyms here, pretty much the Northeast, but all the way down to South Carolina and over to Ohio, people have been in water within the last 2 weeks. So that's a pretty big spread vector range. So just goes to show how important this program is, and 10% of the boats that we're seeing do have hitchhikers on them. One of the questions that we have been trying to collect through this information, trying to really work towards the behavioral change of the people that we're interacting with, is asking them to commit to doing the clean, drain, and dry when there's no steward present. And so of the people that we've asked to commit to doing that, 85% have agreed, which is a pretty good rate. We're obviously going to continue to have stewards at these launches, but it's good to just try to make sure that people are aware of invasive species and not spreading them, and that if someone's not there forcing them or asking them to voluntarily participate, hopefully they're doing that as well. So with that, that is the conclusion of everything I wanted to share this morning. So thank you so much for staying tuned. And if there's any questions, feel free to submit those in the chat box. You can reach out to me. I will warn you that I'm in the field 3 to 4 days a week. So email might take a little bit to get back to you, but I will get back to you. And that's it from me. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks. Can you return control to me, please? So thank you, Brittany. A lot of good work out there, given the current circumstances with everything that's going on. But it's a great program, and really impressed with our partners at Thousand Islands Land Trust and their skills and ability to launch that program and keep it moving forward. So next we'll hear from our education and outreach coordinator, Megan Pistolis, who has a lot to share about the education and outreach front. Megan.
Thanks, Rob. I'm not seeing the controls. If you just want to control the slides for me, that'd be great. Okay, perfect. So hi, everybody. I just want to acknowledge that even though the ways we interact during this time may have changed, our outreach efforts still continue. SLELO has amped up our presence on social media, and we are collaborating with partners on virtual outreach experiences. I've put together some stats since April. We've held 9 virtual events. We've engaged 177 people in virtual events. We've launched 132 social media posts that have reached over 21,000 people and have had over 2,000 engagements. And over 7,800 people have visited our website, so we're doing pretty good. Next. Invasive Species Awareness Week was held June 7th through the 13th this year. Our partners collaborated on social media campaigns, and many webinars were held across the state to engage the public and raise awareness of invasive species. As a whole, the 2020 I Saw social media campaign that our partners engaged in, it engaged over 7,600 people across the state. Next. Did you know that Watertown has an arboretum downtown? We are hosting a virtual urban walk and talk via Zoom this Friday, July 17th, starting at 1 to explore this arboretum. You can join us and learn about the beautiful trees in the arboretum. We will provide an overview of SLELO's Urban Forest Sustainability Initiative and discuss the city's response to emerald ash borer. A virtual tour of the Arboretum will be given through a live demonstration of an interactive online story map that can be accessed by visitors. There will also be a volunteer opportunity to adopt a tree to monitor for signs of invasive tree pests. Visit our events page to register for the virtual urban walk and talk and to learn of other invasive species related events. Next. Just a quick update here. The USDA is conducting a wildland survey in Franklin, Clinton, Jefferson, and St. Lawrence counties. So far, 150 traps have been deployed to track the presence of invasive European cherry fruit fly. This fly is a serious threat to commercial cherry fruit production. In 2016, the fly was found in Ontario, Canada, and a year later, it was also found located in the Niagara River in New York. If you have honeysuckle or cherry trees on your property and are willing to allow a yellow sticky trap to be hung, please do reach out to Vanessa. Her information is here and will also be included in the meeting summary notes. Next. This is a collaboration opportunity. The St. Lawrence River Watershed project has developed a St. Lawrence River Watershed revitalization plan. The plan will provide a framework to secure funding and to prioritize and implement revitalization projects that occur within the St. Lawrence River watershed. Considering the impacts that the St. Lawrence River watershed has on our economy and our livelihood, this is a big opportunity to bring invasive species prevention and management to the forefront. In addition, it is an opportunity for the public to showcase what is important to their communities. Anyone who resides in the St. Lawrence River watershed can comment and assist with the projects that are identified and prioritized in this plan. You can reach out to Chastity Miller, the current chairperson of the St. Lawrence River Watershed Project, and her contact information will also be shared in the summary. And this should look familiar to some of you. We did release our newsletter last week, so if you didn't receive it, please do let me know. We featured many articles exploring invasives, climate change, and the native species we protect. We are very interested in what you think about the newsletter and have created a brief survey that is featured right on our newsletter website page on the bottom. You can sign up to receive the newsletter. You can offer to contribute an article, or you can opt out by completing this brief survey on the website. And as mentioned, social media is a major outlet right now. It's an easy and impactful way to engage a very broad audience. If you manage a social media platform for your organization, I'd like to collaborate with you on launching some invasive species focused social media campaigns. I have created a little group on Facebook that I've invited some of our partners who I know off the top of my head that have some social media outreach already to the group. But if you do manage a social media platform, please do reach out to me so I can add you as we're all collaborating to promote invasive species awareness.
So thank you. Thank you, Megan, for those updates. I just wanted to take a moment here just to kind of pause during the meeting here. And if I can get my screen to work again. Just want to let everyone know that, you know, with the social distancing and working from home and whatnot, the SLELO staff is reachable primarily by email, and I've posted our email addresses up here. Zach's contact information was presented earlier in the program. So I just wanted to share this to let you know that we are still here and we are available. We've had some difficulties with our office phones in the Northern New York field office. So if you call the office and leave one of us a voicemail, we may not get it. So I'm not sure if those phones are back online yet, but I know last week we were having troubles with them. So I guess the best way to reach any of us is to send us an email, and then we'll go from there. I know we presented a lot of information quite quickly today. I guess we're just getting used to this whole online meeting, but I did want to allow some time at the end of the meeting for some open dialogue. I'll pull some conversation off of the chat box, but also to let everyone know before we leave that our next meeting is scheduled for October 22nd. Details will be forthcoming on that meeting. And also Megan would like to try to get a Zoom photo of everyone after we formally end the meeting. So if you'd like to be part of that photo when we're done with the meeting, stay online or stay on the call. We'll start your cameras up and we'll see if we can get a group Zoom photo of our partners. So So I just wanted to take a few minutes and pull some conversation off of the chat box. And I think one of the first questions we had to do with the swallowwort biological control. A question about Carlton Island is not being a priority site. And the best response I can give for that question is that the research, well, there's several reasons. One is the researchers who are establishing the cages thought that it would be useful to not only have an isolated island setting to see if the insects actually leave the island, but also to be able to compare an island with low abundance of swallowwort to an island of high abundance of swallowwort. So I think there's some research issues there that they felt were appropriate for these initial releases. Another reason is that we really needed a commitment from a volunteer or a landowner to check the cages each week and to change the honey water out in the cages weekly. And we didn't want a lot of people trying to go out to the islands, so we were able to get solid commitments from people who live right there on the islands to actually check the cages weekly and do the monitoring weekly. There's actually a little bit more monitoring that's occurring this year on those sites. So it all kind of fell together. It would be a nice research comparison, as well as having commitment from someone to actually go out each week and check the cages and refill the food supply in those cages. And I thought there'd be more questions. So if anyone has any other things you wanted to talk about or ask, now's your chance to put them in the chat box. Here they come. So one question is, what sections of the Black River Trail are being surveyed? And I am going to pass that one to Robert, if you could respond to that. And you
Yes. That 3.5 mile section runs from the parking lot that's in Watertown. They're all the way down to the parking lot that's in Black River.
Super. Thanks, Robert.
You're welcome.
So not seeing any other questions come in the chat box. So I just want to say a couple of words is, you know, from a SLELO staff standpoint and from a partnership standpoint, this season has certainly been different. It's been challenging, yet at the same time, the SLELO staff, the host organization, the Nature Conservancy, as well as our partners, we've been pretty innovative in finding ways to get things done while at the same time complying with the new rules of social distancing and whatnot. So we will continue to move forward the best we can with the early detection work, rapid response work, with all our special project work that we're trying to implement. We do have to, you know, follow the rules. So, you know, it may cause some delays in things based on how and the way we have to do things. But needless to say, we'll keep things moving forward as best we can. And I also wanted to just do a shout out to all of our principal partners, at-large partners, and cooperating affiliates. You know who you are, and you know, maintaining a collaborative work ethic has just been one of the strong points of the SLELO Prison Partnership. And I just wanted to say kudos to all of our partners and thank, you know, everyone for being patient, yet at the same time doing our best to move these initiatives forward, so collectively we can protect, you know, our lands and waters for posterity. So I don't see any more questions. I do see one about sharing the most updated priority species and site lists for SLELO. Yes, we can share that. I'm going to defer that one to Robert. He has been the lead on our tiered species list. So Robert, if you could just prepare something and send that out to the partnership, that would be great. And also Megan just wants everyone to know that visit our website. There's a lot of field reports on there. We're updating our website constantly. Search around on our website for, again, an abundance of information. And this meeting, we hope will be posted to our website as well, along with the other work that we're working on. So thank you everyone for taking time out of your day today to be with us. Again, the entire SLELO team is available primarily by email for now. We look forward to future collaborations and more work managing invasive species and preventing invasive species in our region. So thank you. And for all of those who would like to be part of a Zoom group photo, please stay on the line. I'm going to ask my co-host Brittany if she would, if she can somehow unlock the screen so that everyone can turn their cameras on. And with that, I will say goodbye and end our formal meeting for today. Thanks, everyone. And Brittany, if you want to unmute, I don't know if I need to do something from my end.
Nope, I'm unmuted. Megan, do you want to unmute yourself so that you can just take the screenshot?
You're muted, Megan. I just unmuted you. You're still muted, Megan.
I'm missing some folks. Irene, Colleen, Mystery Number, and Walt. If you would be so kind to let me see your lovely faces, I would be appreciative.
Irene sent in the chat box that she doesn't have video.
Okay, well, that's fine. Your name will suffice, I suppose. All right, turning camera on the count of 3.
Hang on.
I'm not sure how best to do this. Oh, there we go. What's up, Rob? Oh, there's Rob. All right, let me know when you're ready. 1, 2, 3, SLELO. All right, it took 2. Should be good. Awesome, thank you. Everybody giving me permission to put this on Facebook?
Sounds good.
Sure.
Sound good? Okay. Have a lovely day.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye.